pleased to be here today and to present my culminating project, which is a course on spirituality in the workplace. We were asked to talk a little bit about our spiritual journey, so I would share with you very briefly that I've been very interested in spirituality really since my 20s and have been part of various spiritual groups. But the most profound, I think, influence on me has been an ARE Search for God study group that I've been part of since 1999, and I'm pleased that a couple of my friends from that group can be here. That has just been a very active and wonderful source for support and spiritual growth for me. I've attended many workshops here, and it's certainly interesting to be on this side of the podium. And I started really around, I think it was 2004 or so, taking the spiritual mentoring courses because I wanted to do that and get the certificate. I do a lot of mentoring anyway in my work, and I thought, well, that would be a really good thing for me to do. And then I got very interested and over time decided to actually come back and complete the master's program. By way of my faith tradition, I'm a Christian by background, but I'm very open to and interested in learning from other traditions. So my course follows the Atlantic University model of 14 modules, and I'm about halfway through the course. The first 7 modules are really about the student, about you, and applying spirituality in the workplace. And the last part of the course is going to be about creating a spiritually principled workplace. This course has nothing to do about religion in the workplace. This is about bringing a spiritual mentality to work, and then creating a spiritual environment where people can really develop their full potential and you can do good and very productive work. My thought is, and I hope to finish the project by the end of September, my thought is in creating this course and all the fun I have had with the in-depth research that I've been doing, is that this can be a platform for me to do other things as well. I really hope to teach it at Atlantic University if that opportunity opens up, but I'm thinking I can do workshops, I can do talks, I can certainly hopefully do some articles around this, but I can also use this in my coaching and mentoring that I do on a regular basis. It's very important to me that this course be a very applied course. I want it to be very practical. I want it to help people see how they can apply their spirituality in the workplace, particularly when the going can get a little bit rough or it can get a little bit challenging. So I want to help people to grow spiritually, personally, and professionally. And leadership, particularly in the second part of the course, is going to be a focus as well. So work is such a significant part of our lives. You know, we spend almost a third of our time there. I think it's a wonderful place for us to grow spiritually, and it's certainly a testing ground for us as well, to help us live our spirituality. And so I want to bring a spiritual mentality to the workplace, as well as looking at the principles of spirituality in the workplace itself, which I think I already said. Okay, the course components are similar to the ones that you see in the Atlantic University courses and that we're all familiar with, but I've added a strong journaling component as well, and also a practice component, which is in some courses perhaps and not in others, to help people undertake practices. These are the 3 textbooks that I've picked to date, and I'm probably going to add at least one other. But Nancy Smith's Workplace Spirituality is a great overview. Love is Letting Go of Fear is just a classic and really helps with understanding the dynamics that go on in the workplace and in life. The Handbook of Workplace Spirituality and Organizational Performance is a series of chapters by leaders in the workplace spirituality field. And this funny name book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Spirituality in the Workplace, is just an absolute gem of practical exercises, examples, wisdom tips, and things to really help you apply your spirituality in the workplace. I have links to video assignments. I've found some wonderful supplemental articles, and I have audio links for some of the guided meditations and exercises. Okay, I want to tell you just a little bit about each module, and I have so little time, so I'm going to go quickly. I am going to show the learning objectives for each of the modules, but then I'm going to move from them quickly because I'm going to talk about those in the highlights. Okay, the very first thing I want to do is have a course definition for spirituality and distinguish between spirituality and religion, and help students to understand that religion is a way in which we often express our spirituality, but they're really two different things that have commonalities. So I don't have time to really go into that, but that's very important as a premise up front. Nancy Smith gives 6 traits of a spiritual person. Oh, I'm sorry, this is leading to the workforce spirituality movement. And if you think about it, we, as many of us in here, could be called baby boomers, but we all, about the late 1980s, around 1990, you started to see the baby boomers come into their 40s. And so there were some midlife questionings around work and the purpose of work and value of work, but a lot of other things were happening. The stability of the worker-company relationship was breaking down. There were a lot of there's a lot of ethical breakdown in corporations, increasing demands on workers. And we were moving into a more postmodern society in which people were thinking about the value of work and the purpose of work and what work should be like. Actually, I'd probably add one thing here, and that would have to do with the increasing diversity in the workplace, particularly the increase in women in leadership and management positions, because I think that's had an impact as well. We look at spiritual orientations of dwelling and seeking, and in the assignments I introduced the first module has a 5-minute centering technique and writing an initial definition for spirituality, and discussion posed around a definition of spirituality, how your concept of spirituality and religion might have evolved over time, and your perception of the purpose of work in life. And the written exercise is based on the reading and reflections. In Module 2, we work on exploring our spirituality. And we look at here the 7 traits of a spiritual person as Smith presents them, and I think they're a good model to go by. Authenticity, integrity, and humility being a circle of being, and openness, hospitality, gratitude, and compassion as the outward traits where we're connecting with others. I work with the Casey material in terms of setting our ideals and helping to know our values and what's important to us, because that helps us stay centered as we deal with the challenging times of life and also serves as a moral compass. We also look at the concept of self-power, which comes from really knowing who you are, what you stand for, and that you are in charge of yourself. This helps you make healthy choices, not give your power away to others, and avoid those kinds of toxic and draining situations that we all find. We also look at setting intent and the use of affirmations for doing that, and of course relying on the Casey material for a lot of that. In the journaling assignment, I introduced St. Ignatius Loyola's Examen of Consciousness, just a daily self-reflection on how have I lived up to my values during the day, and of course particularly looking at the workplace, and there are video and resource links provided. By the way, I was first introduced to that by someone in my ARE study group. In the journal, I have students look at how they might be giving their self-power away to others. They're also, in the discussion post, choosing from some quotes and giving feedback and sharing an affirmation that is particularly meaningful to them. And then in the written assignment, they're looking at each of those traits and thinking about, how do I relate to these traits? Where do I feel I have strengths? Where do I feel I'd like to grow? And then I'm asking them also to develop or write 2 workforce behaviors that exemplify each of those traits, and this part would be shared with the whole class, giving us a sense of what that applied trait looks like in the workplace. And then I'm using Robert MacArthur's from the ARE Press, his book on Your Life, Why It Is the Way It Is. It's just a wonderful book on universal laws, but it has a great section on ideals clarification. The next chapter uses John Polsky's book on love and fear, and it's the dynamics of love and fear in the workplace. And so essentially, he says there are really two emotions, love and fear, and they come in many different guises. And when we can recognize those emotions and where they're coming from in ourselves and in others, it can just really help us with our interpersonal relations in general. And looking at the emotions around these in terms of positive and negative as well. So really getting into the idea that thoughts are energy, that words have great power, and how we choose them is very important. I love this Sufi wisdom that talks about the gates you should pass through with your words, asking yourself, first, is it true? Then is it necessary? Then is it kind? But also looking at words in terms of around their power. Are they words of attack? Are they words that limit? Are they words that judge? Are they words that condemn? So basically, the bottom line in the short time I have is, are you projecting love or are you projecting fear in your interactions? One of the things in the journaling that they'll be doing in this module is reflecting on recurring situations that maybe elicit fear-based triggers in themselves, and just going through a series of questions and reflecting on that. And also thinking about in what ways you practice love unconditionally. The practice for this is a meditation that I picked up from Diane Ely's book on feeling loved, feeling loving, taking yourself back to a time when you felt completely and unconditionally loved, and reliving that situation and reliving that feeling so that you're really closely in touch with that feeling in a way that can make it easier for you to extend it to others. In the discussion post, you're asked to recall a work experience where you had a fear-based reaction to a person or a situation, and then to recreate that, reimagine it, and to have a different kind of reaction through love, and thinking about how that might have been different. Module 4 is responding spiritually to difficult co-workers and bosses and coping with office politics. And this one was a lot of fun. And I know when I was doing this slide, my administrative assistant said how happy she was that nobody in our workplace looked like those people. And I'm glad too. So I want to be very practical here, because I know, as having been a manager for about 30 years, it's the people interactions, it's how we're connecting with others that really make work a great place to work in a lot of ways, or a challenging place to work. So we're looking at practical guidance there, and also a bit at our shadow selves and how we project those things we just don't like about ourselves onto others, and kind of monitoring that and taking a look at that in ourselves. So the idea here is to help people avoid projection and to stay spiritually aligned. So we're using in this module the Buddhist concept of watching yourself, or watching a situation pass by in a very detached way, where you're stepping back. I learned this first from Jack Kornfield's work, actually. You're stepping back and watching the situation without emotion, in a detached way, and trying to really look at what's actually happened, what may be motivating the people involved, what's being triggered in you. And the goal here is to tap into your self-power and consider then what your appropriate response as a spiritual worker should be. Office politics is really a dumping ground for all kinds of bad behavior that's caused by a lot of things. Gossip is certainly one of the big ones. But a lot of time it's people feeling insecure, or maybe management hasn't provided enough information, or maybe the policies aren't what they need to be. The important thing here is, as a spiritual person, you do not want to feed this monster, and you want to look at the underlying causes and see what you can do that's constructive to help with the process. We also look at the paradox of niceness, which is the idea that Robin Medell put forward, that niceness can be taken to a real unhealthy limit. And so it's thinking about setting clear and appropriate values and not giving your time and energy away to toxic people or toxic situations. The discussion posts deal with thoughts on the paradox of niceness and experiences and perceptions with office politics. The journaling exercises add one thing, which is a success diary. I think we all need to learn how to be our own best cheerleaders and coaches, and so it's catching yourself in the workplace each day and something that was a success in dealing with others or in your performance. So, and the practice that we've been doing all along continues. The written assignment is a guided reflection upon interactions with two difficult bosses, as you perceive them to be, and two difficult co-workers. Just thinking about the situations around love, fear, and spiritual responses. And also taking time to look at what Diane Ely calls your anger triggers, those things that we carry around, and what all unresolved triggers may be stuck in your anger bank, and also your fear pile and what that looks like. And I give the students an option of drawing their fear pile and labeling it. Module 5 is about money and spirituality and understanding your bottom line about money, because money, wealth, profit are all an important part of the workplace. So we look at the messages that we've picked up over time about money from our parents, from our own experiences, and what are those messages that we're carrying around about money. And thinking about work we do as an expression of our spiritual selves, and that a healthy approach to money is not one that has a belief where you have fear around it or there's a belief in scarcity. So you want to think of money as a tool or a resource, and even a spiritual asset that you can put to work for you. I love Corrine McLaughlin's concept, the divine circulatory flow of money, so I brought this in a very good article by her on it. You can have an attachment to money as a thing, as coins or bills and watching your dollars grow in the bank, or you can think of money as a flow of energy, a wave, a flow of financial energy, which based on universal laws and attraction and abundance, can lead to an abundant supply of what you need. And I just feel like I have seen this so much in my own life and in my own work. So I really think this is a good thing to share with students. So I was very excited. NPR's Marketplace series has some wonderful videos on various major religions and their views on money and wealth. So I included those along with several articles. The journaling is self-reflections on my relationship with money, and I'm asking students to take a couple months of their credit card statements, checkbooks, and just their spending in general, and look at that and think about, what does this tell you about what's important to you, what you value, and your needs and wants. And then the other kinds of practice and journaling continue. And the discussion post is on the divine circulatory flow of money. And the written assignment is around exploring your beliefs about money, both through the readings and through your own reflection. Module 6 is seeking a healthy life-work balance. And we're really looking at lots of data from many studies that talk about the impacts of balance in the workplace and health. And really consistently what I was seeing is what this chart is trying to say, that when you have a spiritual approach to work, then you're, especially in a spiritually principled, I guess is the right word, workplace, you're going to see greater employee satisfaction and retention, greater customer satisfaction and loyalty, and you actually see an increase in the company bottom line. We look at spiritual well-being. We also look at Howard Gardner's concept of spiritual intelligence, which is one of the multiple intelligences that he put forth, and how your spiritual intelligence can be very helpful to you in the workplace. And ultimately, the responsibility for work-life balance is truly ours. The assignments have us mindful of what's happening in our work life and expressing gratitude on a regular basis in our journal. Discussion posts are looking at symptoms you observe in yourself when you're out of balance. And I have a very hardline short video from a Harvard professor who has an approach to work-life balance that says, Monday through Friday is work, Saturday is my family, and Sunday is church, and there's no flexibility. So I thought that was a good kind of extreme for students to work with. The written assignments have them looking at their expectations, their own self-assessment, their sense of spiritual well-being, and actually there's a little test for your spiritual intelligence quotient. And I have to wrap up quickly here, but the last module is on ethics and work. Both work a work ethic in terms of your belief around work, like the Protestant work ethic, for example, but also your ethics and personal values around work. And we look at how to deal with non-spiritual demands at work and the concept of ethical drift, and I don't have time to tell the story that goes with this. Okay, and we also look at changing work ethics. And the discussion post is around ethical drift, and then there's a series of questions that relate to the readings. And looking ahead, this is really my last slide, and this is where I plan to go from here in terms of topics for the second half of the course. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.